Greetings to all my fellow watching enthusiasts on YouTube and Facebook and wherever else this video will be seen and shared. Celine Driver once again bringing to you another video. I was about to say another unboxing and review. It is not that. This is a comparison video. Sort of a natural follow-on to the video I just recently did about this new Zelos Starfighter Chronograph and how it compares to the old ZX Chronograph. Now, truth be known, I am probably one of the biggest ZX fans out there in the world. I own 10 ZX chronographs. I own ZX1 through ZX8. I own one of the two known to exist prototypes, the one with the date and day window complication that never made it to production. And I also own a one-off ZX Spitfire edition, which was the precursor to the Spitfire editions of this watch, which is forthcoming as I make this video, and the Spitfire version of the Skyraider second generation. But I got the only ZX Spitfire in existence. I love that watch. But what I want to do real briefly is do a comparison between the two watches, because they are the two chronograph offerings from Zelos. So this is this watch now is a few years old. And for the comparison between the two, since this is a very showy Starfighter, I figured I would grab the most showy, if you will, version of the ZX that I own. This is the ZX7 in titanium Damascus, or Timascus as we call it. And as you know, this is a titanium alloy that has been folded and refolded in the Damascus metalwork technique, which causes these unique stripes and striations, which are unique to each metal piece. And then each watch is individually heat treated to 900 degrees Fahrenheit by Elshin Tang himself. Elshin was the one who pioneered, if you will, the Damascus or titanium Damascus, with the heat treat in watches. Thus is the power of the micro brand, where they can concentrate on style and techniques and case designs and things like that, and leave the engineering to the big boys like Seiko and Valjoux and all those folks. So we have the two chronographs, if you will, first generation or first offering and the second offering. Now, obviously, you can tell right off the bat significant differences. For one thing, the Zelos logo is in a different place on the watches. 12 o'clock here, 3 o'clock on the ZX. You have two subdials on the Starfighter, where you only have the one subdial on the, three subdials on the ZX. They both have tachometer scales. The tachometer scale on the ZX is inboard of the watch, as you can see, along the inner track, whereas the tachometer scale on the Starfighter is on the outside, on the bezel. We have different types of pushers. We have the old school style pistons type pusher on the Starfighter. We have more of a, I don't know what really you call that, what shape you call that, but kind of a stubby winglet-like style on the ZX. The crowns are somewhat similarly shaped, somewhat. Not a screw-down crown on this watch, on the Starfighter, whereas this watch does have a screw-down crown. We'll get to that in a minute. Both have exhibition case backs with custom rotors, but otherwise fairly non-decorated watch movements. Now, obviously, this one is paired up on a leather strap. This one is a collar leather strap, as you can see right there. This one, that's the ZX. The Starfighter comes on the standard Zelos metal bracelet, which I still think is a fantastic looking bracelet. Very unique, very different, very supple. As I said, it reminds me a lot of my father's recently acquired H. Moser & C streamliner, and the way the links interlink with each other and play with each other. I think it's very elegant looking. A lot of people still complaining to me in DMs and such about this center link. Hey, again, your opinion, your right to it. Fight to the death for your right to have your own opinion. I just don't necessarily agree with you. On the ZX, you have the 3 subdials. As I said, this one is an hour subdial indicator for the chronograph. You have a minute indicator for the chronograph and a running seconds here at the 9 o'clock. On the Starfighter, you just have a minute counter for the chronograph and a constant second hand for the watch. The ZXs did not get a date complication on any model except the 2 prototypes. I own one. My friend Josh from the Horological Insanity channel has the other one. They have a date complication, but no other production ZX had a date complication, whereas the Starfighter got the date complication at the 6. Also, the ZXs never used very exotic materials on the watch faces. They were all generally fairly simple watch dials, whereas the Starfighter, in addition to having a watch dial that's relatively simple in the blue and the frost version, also have, these also came in meteorite version. I believe that was the ZX3 and the ZX6. This will have a meteorite version as well, but of course the Starfighter is also going to come with the Aventurine dial, which is what we have here, and the Spitfire metal dial, which the ZX didn't come with, except mine. But let's compare statistics. I have them written down over here next to me. The ZX is a 43 millimeter case. I believe you can see there is a slight difference in the diameter of the case. The Starfighter is a 41 millimeter case. They're very similar on the lug to lug. The ZX is a 49 millimeter lug to lug. The Starfighter is 48 millimeter lug to lug. They both have 22 millimeter lug widths. This one is obviously thicker. I mean, even with the flat sapphire crystal versus the boxed crystal on the Starfighter, this one is 16 millimeter thick, whereas the Starfighter is, I believe, 15 millimeter thick. Or is it 14? 14. I'm sorry, 14. I forgot to measure it actually before I started the video, but I measured it in the video I made for this one. So if you're curious, you can go back and watch that video and get that. Water resistance. This is 100 meter water resistant. This is only 50. That's down to the screw down crown on the ZX. This is not a screw down crown. So while you can get this watch wet, you can even swim with it if you want to. This one, you can get it, maybe get a little water on it when you wash your hands or get caught in a rainstorm, but definitely wouldn't put this thing underwater. Not a good idea. The movements also is where the big difference is. The ZX had two movements available. If you picked an automatic, you got a Valjoux 7750 automatic, hand winds, hacks, the whole thing. If you picked the Mecha Quartz, you got a Seiko VK67 Mecha Quartz, which works beautifully as well. 3 of my 10 ZXs are Mecha Quartz. The others are all automatics. And as I showed you, custom rotor on the movement. Maybe a little more decoration on the older ZX with the blued screws and such, but otherwise it's a very simple, plain movement. This watch got the ETA 2894. Again, not a highly decorated movement. We went over that in the video I did, the standalone video. You do get a custom rotor for this watch. On the wrist, I'll give you a quick wrist shot of each watch. On the wrist, they fit very similarly. You can see the lugs are much stubbier and drop down much more on the ZX. They're a little more elongated on the Starfighter, but still very comfortable on a 7¼ inch wrist. Give her a wrist shot of that as well. Oops. Come on. Might put this on a mesh bracelet someday, just for the heck of it. But for right now, you can see this fits taller on the wrist and does not fit as deeply across as the Starfighter, but it still fits very well on my 7¼ inch wrist. But they compare, I mean, statistically, these are very similar watches in terms of size, in terms of how they wear, etc., etc. In terms of how they feel on the wrist, they are also quite similar. Obviously, in terms of cost, these two watches are, well, in this particular case, because I picked the Damascus watch, the Damascus watch was much more expensive than the standard ZX watches, but they were several $100s cheaper when new than the Starfighters are going to be. But you're also getting a slightly better movement. In the case of this particular watch, you're getting a bit more exotic material. In terms of build quality, I think they're pretty much going to be the same. I think the cost difference is down to, in this case, if you were comparing this to the Starfighter to a standard ZX and not a Damascus ZX, the cost would be down to probably the dial by itself. The movement is the big difference between the two watches in terms of cost, because the ETA 2894 is a more expensive movement than the Valjoux 7750. Not to say the 7750 isn't a great movement. I have many of them, and they all work beautifully. But that's the comparison between these two watches. They're very similar. You can definitely see the familial lineage between the two watches. And I love them both. Now, on a personal note, will I try to collect all 5 of these Starfighters over time? Maybe. They're very expensive. I mean, they go between $1,399 US at the time of release of the watches, and that means they probably go up over time. Between $13.99 and $15.99, depending on which face you get. But will I shoot for getting all 5 of them? I don't know. Maybe. I'm probably that crazy enough that I might do it. But for right now, I'll just stick with the Aventurine. and enjoy that as long as I can. I believe that I'll get to buy this one, but as of the time I'm making this video, I still don't know that yet. But we'll see. Anyway, I just wanted to give you this comparison between these two beautiful watches because it's kind of a natural comparison between the two. And I hope you found this video to be entertaining, useful, informative, and all that. If you did, please click that thumbs up button for me. Comments, questions, suggestions down below. I do read them all. I do respond to them all. However, if you are going to troll me or you are going to leave links on my comment section that are taking people to bad places on the internet, I will delete those comments and I will block the commenter. If you're new to the channel, of course, welcome, 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 welcome. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you found me. Please enjoy. Watch as many videos as you want. But before you leave, I ask only one small favor. Help me grow the channel by clicking that subscribe button and clicking that bell icon next to it so that when I upload more content, you will be alerted to that. And when I go and do live streams, which I do every Wednesday afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, or at other times during the week when time and opportunity make themselves available to me, you will be alerted to those streams. Meanwhile, as I always say at the end of my videos, it is a crazy old world out there, and it is not getting less crazy as we go forward. So please, be safe, be well, be careful, and I will see you later.